This is blue Chogath. Blue items, blue summoner spells, blue runes, and a beautiful blue match history full of wins. Meet GigaChod, an EUS player who hit master only buying blue items on Chogath, many of which make some sense. But some, like MANAMUNE, seem useless. However, our player found a cool new interaction with this item that makes it really viable on Chogath. Along with this, the blue summoner spells and runes are quite unique, taking Ghost+CLEANSE every game and playing First Strike, going for a high damage Cho build that specializes in cleansing CC, running at enemies, knocking them up and auto-attacking them until they can be chomped to death. We're going to look and decide if this build is actually quite good or just terrible, as well as how he managed to hit master anyway despite this, by creating new strategies and adapting to this new hybrid damage build. But first, this video's sponsor is amazing. It's Final Fantasy XIV Online. I love this game and I'm so happy I get to talk about it. It's one of the biggest MMOs with over 1.6 million daily players. And the best thing is, you can play it completely for free up to level 60 with no restrictions on game time, letting you play hundreds of hours of the full game to see if you like it before you spend anything. Just click the link in the description, sign up and install the free trial with just a couple of clicks. And while you're waiting for it to download, why not check out the super well made new player guide? Very welcoming and tells you everything you need to know to get started. Then jump right into character customization, having tons of options to make sure you start your adventure right. And there is now a new expansion named Final Fantasy Endwalker, so now's a great time to get started, with absolutely no pay-to-win microtransactions and years of stories to explore, as well as incredible locations. If you want to experience a whole new world of quests, jobs, and unique stories, then download Final Fantasy XIV Online from my link in the description. Now back to GigaChod. Although he began this challenge in Season 13, his story with Chogath began way back in Season 3, as soon as he started playing League. He found Cho, and immediately it was his favourite champion. Ever since finding some off-meta builds in these early seasons, he began to play full AP Chogath, hitting Diamond for the first time in Season 9 with Glacial, Hextech GLP, and Twin Shadows Chogath. He loved this item, being able to send out slowing ghosts to find enemies, and make his Q much easier to land, making AP Cho very viable. With this build, he went on to hit master in Season 10. However, it was during pre-season, so he never truly believed it was legitimate. This led to Season 13, Blue Chogath. One day, GigaChod was chilling on a Smurf. He got into a game, picked Chogath as normal, and then he checked the enemy team. It was full of immobile squishy champions with a ton of CC. Champions like Ashe and Brand. Usually, this is a nightmare for AP Chogath, as he just gets stunned and can never reach anyone. So our player realized that Ghost and Cleanse would be perfect for this game. In the game, he tanked arrows, cleansed CC, and ghosted onto these squishies, making the game so easy. Looking at this victory in his match history, he noticed that basically everything on the page was blue, and so he wondered, would this actually be possible? A full blue build. He looked at the other blue items that existed and made a list of things he was allowed to buy, from AP to tank items and even AD items. As long as it was blue, he was allowed to get it. After a few months of work, he found an optimal 6-item setup and a blue rune to fit it. Under 100 games later and a 63% win rate, he hit master for the first time during a season. Our player wanted to make it very clear the main focus of this build is just having fun, as well as for him to send his profile to teammates in Champ Select to see them freak out about how it actually works, even showing Tyler 1 the power of this pick while he was in EU. Let's get into game and I'll give you the secret of why each item works as he buys it. The blue items start immediately at level 1, buying Doran's Ring. He runs to mid lane, his lane of choice for AP Chogath, taking Q at level 1 and having his mostly blue rune, First Strike. His early laning is actually pretty good. This rune fits Chogath's Q well, as he can start trades with it at long range and use it just for damage and to farm extra gold, which helps afford his full blue build. Level 2, our player takes E, using it to manage the wave and last hit. Early on, AP Chogath's trades are very simple. When an enemy is just about to kill a minion with an auto attack, that is your window to use Q, placing it underneath them while they're stuck in the animation. Taking W at level 3, Chogath is always happy to go for a trade, as his passive has built-in sustain, giving him health and mana whenever he kills a minion. Also taking biscuits, these put together guarantees he will outlast the enemy mid, hopefully also getting more gold than they get thanks to his rune. On to the next blue part, Cleanse. In mid lane, this is a pretty common summoner as you often play against Ignite. So if the enemy picks an assassin or a kill lane, you can just cleanse the Ignite damage immediately, so their kill combo should no longer work. Early in lane, Chogath isn't a big threat. He isn't going to burst you down as as he's quite predictable, and good enemies will know this, so they will play aggressive onto you. However, because of this, Chogath mid is perfect for setting up ganks, baiting enemies in, ghosting for speed to chase them down and CCing them to find the kill. At level 6, your blue summoners become even more important. If he's able to land a Q on an enemy in a good position, instantly he ghosts, knowing he can run them down and get the kill, silencing them while they're still in the air to deny their dashes, auto attack and use ult to try and pop them before they land. With Ghost, Cleanse and Approach Velocity in his runes, he really can run anyone down without much counterplay. Melee matchups are especially simple, where you can start the fight with one auto attack into your E to slow them. This slow makes it much easier to land your Q and then burst them with your ult. One tip he gave me for landing more Qs is that he even clicks on the enemy to see their movement speed and adjusts his Q according to it, placing it further away or closer depending on if they're fast or slow. Now here is his first base, buying Tear, another blue item, and likely some resistances as well, either getting Warden's Mail or Negatron Cloak depending on the enemy mid laner's damage, with both of these building into blue tank items later on. However, he doesn't upgrade them yet, instead rushing Everfrost as his mythic. This item doesn't really need an explanation. You press it, you root someone, and then you get to Q them for free, making AP Chogath deal much more consistent damage, also giving him great stats, AP, cooldown reduction, and mana, all perfect for Chogath. Since you've bought this AP, your Q can now one-shot the wave, using your E to help with it, meaning he can get priority easily and roam. Sure, in these roams he's quite slow, but he makes up for this by having a lot of CC in ganks. Not really there for the damage, mostly there to land a Q and stop the enemy from escaping, having Ghost to help if he needs to chase. The best way to gank is to sneak into a bush and use your Q from Fog of War, also having Everfrost for the CC. With this one item, his burst combo deals about 1300 damage, which luckily is roughly the same as lots of squishy mids and bot laners have at this time. But now, the weirdness begins. All this time he's been stacking a Tear, which now converts into MANAMUNE, and then immediately into Muramana. The way this item works on Chogath is firstly your auto attacks deal extra on-hit damage based on your maximum mana. However, the special part for Chogath is that it also deals way more bonus damage when you hit an enemy with an ability, and this works with every charge of Chogath's E. So even if you're hitting the same target over and over again, your auto attacks will deal extra damage, and your E spikes deal a bonus extra hit, and this can deal over 100 damage itself added on to every auto attack. So this interacts super well with Chogath's kit, not only buffing every ability, but also allow him to auto people to death without hitting any skill shots, just using his E and his ult to kill them, also giving him mana and having synergy with the mana he gets from Everfrost. And on top of that, all of this extra damage he's doing is physical damage, so you become hybrid instead of just AP. It's actually an incredibly good item on Chogath. Instead of just buying more AP, this may somehow even be better, and we would never have known about it without this blue item challenge. With Muramana, you often have similar AD value to the other AD champions in the game. The item is just so efficient. So then when you add the health from your ultimate and your AP damage, his 1v1s become quite crazy, having the CC to lock them down, then auto them to death and ult to finish them off. It takes enemies a long time to kill you, but it doesn't take Chogath very long to kill them. That advantage is why this item works. And even if you literally can never hit a Chogath Q, you still have a good chance of getting kills with this build, using the E MANAMUNE ult combo to auto people to death. It's a little unfair, but hey, that's the advantage from this item. His free boots arrive from his blue magical footwear rune, also buying blue boots, and upgrading to blue orb as well at level 9 to get rid of the awful yellow colour in his inventory. Next buying a resistance item like Frozen Heart against AD or Force of Nature against AP. He keeps it blue and gets much tankier, making him even harder to kill in 1v1s, but still having great damage from ult. One thing that he says is really important is how you use ult on Chogath, with most players just using it on the wave to get stacks. That is not his goal. He has a priority list of how to use it in high elo. First, his main goal is to have ultimate for kills and roams. Of course this is ideal as it gives him the stats and is also useful for getting ahead of the enemy. Next on his list is just keeping his ult for pressure, not using it. The reason he does this is to make sure the enemy has to respect him as they can die to him, trying to force them to sacrifice CS due to the risk of him killing them. His next priority is objectives, often able to beat smite damage and secure it for his team. And finally, he eats minions if he has nothing else to do. The best time to do this is just before he bases, as then the cooldown will tick down as he's walking back to lane. This pick is now starting to get a lot of damage, making it really good at snowballing games. A lot of his match history is full of 20-minute flawless wins. However, when Chogath is behind behind, you can start to see his main weakness, the low mobility. It's hard to surprise people when you can't dash towards them. However, thanks to Ghost+CLEANSE, it's much harder to ever peel Chogath off you. The usual stuns or even dashes that would make Chogath worthless are now not as effective, becoming much better at chase fights where he can Q one enemy after another. At this point, thanks to his items and stats from his ult, he should have about 3000 health, which isn't too bad for a damaged champion. And this leads into teamfights, where blue Chogath is all about CC, ideally saving his Q and keeping it ready for a teammate to land CC, letting him land his Q for free. But with this build of Everfrost to slow the enemy and Ghost to run at them and Cleanse to remove any CC, you can just outrun people, and honestly it's quite hard to miss your Q. You can get on top of them and put Q in front of their escape to deny it, and then auto them to death. If you're able to land abilities that will enable your auto attacks, and enemies will be dead before they know what happened. Usually it's not possible for someone to die to Chogath without getting hit by one of his pretty obvious skill shots. But with this build, just auto attacks and ult are enough. Vitally, against assassins and burst champions, he says it's important to hold your W silent in fights to peel for your AD carry and make sure they don't get blown up. A well-timed silence to save your carry and stop an enemy engage can be even more valuable than getting a kill. Late game, blue Chogath is slightly weaker than many other mid laners due to the low range, so he starts to stack more resistances to finish the build, acting more like a frontliner. Buying one item I think I've literally never seen anyone buy to finish off his build, Silvermere Dawn. It's a strange item, especially since he already has Cleanse, but the stats on this item aren't actually too bad, giving AD, health and magic resist, as well as the extra Cleanse to make you really unpeelable. Probably a less unhinged option is Cosmic Drive for the AP and speed to reach enemies with your high damage combo, or alternatively Anathema's Chains to put on a fed enemy, and then use your auto attacks to run them down while tanking all of their damage. The blue build is now complete. To rate this pick, I want to just quote what our player said. This pick works, but the main purpose is fun. Every game he sends his account in Champ Select to make people laugh, and also to make sure they know he's trustworthy and stop them from tilting. He even thinks this build would work on some other champions, something like Silas, Sion or Udyr, or any champions that can be tanky and also have good CC. He just wants to make people laugh when they see what he's doing, while also picking something that does have logic behind it. I think this pick is a great surprise pick for mid laner, some games confusing enemies and giving your top laner counter pick. AP Chogath is really good into immobile mages as they can't dodge his Q. Also, the amount of CC that Chogath has is remarkable for solo Q. Even if you're behind, you can group up with him and come back by getting picks. However, no matter how good this pick is, he recommends dropping the blue summoner spells for Flash Ignite if you want to try it in ranked, and at least ban a ganking jungler like Jarvan as Cleanse is useless against him. For the full blue build with the other blue items, Doran's into tier and then tank components into Everfrost as mythic, MANAMUNE next into Frozen Heart against an AD enemy mid or Force of Nature against AP. For boots he keeps it blue as well, buying either Sorcerer Shoes or Merc Treads if you want to truly be full blue instead of purple, with more tank, AP or even AD as the best options to finish off the build. Even his minor runes are mostly blue, with this first strike page for maximum damage, taking magical footwear, biscuit delivery and approach velocity, as well as Transcendence and Gathering Storm. Even if you weren't doing this build, all of these minor runes would work pretty well on Chogath. Comet or Phase Rush are also good options, especially against bruisers who try and run you down. GigaChod has a Twitch and a YouTube channel, so if you want to see his future experiments, then links to those are in the description. Thanks again to Final Fantasy XIV Online for sponsoring this video. Please download the game and give it a try today, link below. Thanks so much for watching.